Bionicle discussions. My name is Bargos1000, and I'm Jarek. What? No clever remark this week? You thought those were clever? Walk right into that one. Anyway, this week will be part 2 for my Bionicle 2015 review for the Winter Wave. Now, if you've seen part 1, you will recall that I mainly focused on the storyline for Bionicle 2015. A link will be in the description below for those of you who haven't seen it yet. This week, though, we will be focusing primarily on the sets, which, in all honesty, is really the main reason why we get invested in the story in the first place. Now, this review was made before I had all the sets from the Winter Wave. So, most of this is primarily based on what I have observed through other sources, such as the TTV podcasts. So, how many sets do you have, Ghost? 4. 3 toy sets and 1 protector set. With that being said, let's get rockin'! Karzani, it's about time! Let's start off with the oh-so-fun-loving Lewa. Next to Onua, he has the most color variety, giving him more of a jungle vibe, which is appropriate considering that he is the master of jungle. He is also the only smaller toy set to have a dual gear function. This allows him to move both arms simultaneously as you're rotating the gear. However, the shoulder armor that Lewa has might restrict his head movement a bit. His tools of choice are a pair of dual axes that can be split to form a pair of swords as well as a pair of wings. The wings themselves allow him to glide on air currents. These tools are pretty reminiscent to the ones Lewa had back in 2001 and 2002. The only real question I have for him is, how does he not cut himself when he's using his axes? Burn! His mask, while monkey-like in appearance, is pretty streamlined, as well as aerodynamic, which works well for him as he is air flying most of the time. When compared to his mask from 2001, it is obviously more detailed with smaller holes for the eyes as well as the cheeks. Next we move on to the toy that truly rocks, Pohatu. Guess that is some weak sauce. And you can do any better? Don't answer that. As I was saying, Pohatu is the smallest out of the toy sets, with the fewest pieces and the most basic design out of all of them. Despite this though, he has amazing articulation and posability. This is partially due to the simplistic ball joints on his arms. It is also due to the lack of armor that he possesses, which makes him the least restrictive out of all the toy sets. Originally, I didn't think he had enough color to him, but when compared to Galley, the amount of color he has is fairly decent. He has a single gear function which allows him to move his right arm. Also, the individual design of each of his arms had a certain uniqueness to him. His tools of choice are a pair of Stormerangs and a small dagger. The Stormerangs themselves can fully extend to become sort of broadswords, or fully collapse. This makes them the only weapon with a function. His Stormerangs can also attach to his feet to become jet ranks, allowing him to soar into the air. It is then, and only then, that he draws his dagger. These tools are also some of the very few that feature pieces from the previous Bionicle years. The Borak eyes being on the Stormerangs, and the dagger being a piece from Gurak's staff. Ooh! Maybe next time we can get some Paraka pieces! I highly doubt that's gonna happen, Jardark. Hey, I can dream, can't I? Moving on! The mask that Pohatu wears is very aerodynamic, not to mention very smooth. This is ideal for traveling through the desert sands. The only real flaw I can see is the dent at the top where sand can accumulate, but that's just nitpicking. Compared with his mask back in 2001, the eye holes are far smaller, plus there aren't any holes besides those. It also has a bit more detail. Next up is the Master of Waves, Galley. Also fun-loving, truly rocks, Master of Waves? Man, you make this way too easy to make fun of. Jodek, this is my review, so shut it! The audience gets to voice their opinions and I can't? Double standard, dude. Well, they tend to wait until this video is finished before voicing their opinions. You, on the other end, do it constantly. And it is really messing up the flow of this review. Yeah, but I'm your co-host. I'm supposed to voice my opinions constantly throughout this video. Look, we can either waste time going circles around this discussion, or we can go back to the review. Your choice. While she may not look as feminine compared to the other Toa, this is her most feminine set design so far. While her shoulder armor can be a bit restrictive at times, and the blades on her lower leg armor can get in the way of her gear function, it is still a pretty nice looking set. It has a good blend of gunmetal gray, silver, and blue coloring. The yellow in her armor is also very eye-catching without being too distracting. Also, she, like Pohatu, has a single gear function that rotates her right arm. Plus, all her gears are yellow, unlike the other Toa, whose only yellow gear is the one you turn. Her tool of choice is a war axe, which can split to form two pairs of flippers and a spear. It is the only tool with a single weapon choice for both forms. While the war axe is somewhat top heavy, the spear can be posed with both hands holding it. At first glance, her mask may seem to not fit her very well, but under closer examination you can see the visor around her eyes and the breathing apparatus around her mouth and nose. Plus, the more you look at it, the more you realize how hydrodynamically designed it is. You were waiting to pull out that phrase, weren't you? I'd be lying if I wasn't. Back on topic. Her mask is the least alike out of all the Toa when compared to their 2001 counterparts. Outside of her visor and triangular nose, there is no real resemblance to her 2001 mask. Her mask is also a solid color, while in 2001 it was translucent. Personally, I think this is a good move on LEGO's part because it adds more femininity to her look. It also makes her mask far more dynamic. Coming in now is the Spirit of Fire, and poster boy for Bionicle, Tahu. Get a little old school with these introductions, aren't ya? Now, what can I say about Tahu? His main colors, red and gold, are mixed together quite nicely. He has the most posability out of all the big toy sets. In fact, the only other set that can really beat him in terms of posability is Pohatu. Even his secondary weapons can be posed in a variety of ways when they're put away on his back. The only real issue I have with this set are the silver hands and feet. Other than matching his primary tools, they really stand out in terms of his color scheme. Of course, I'm just nitpicking at this point. His weapons of choice are a pair of great swords and a pair of golden regular swords. While his great swords are in use, his golden swords are safely tucked away on his back. The greatswords can also merge to form a lava board. Need I say more? Well, that was a slaughter way to end it. His mask is quite detailed, and it gives us that built-in scowl that he is known for. It also makes him look like he has a bit of a beard. This isn't bad, it's just an observation. Mutton chops ahoy! Seriously, Jardak, that joke is old. Not to me! Anyway, what is also noticeable is the defined chin and eyebrows. When compared to his 2001 mask, the 2015 rendition is obviously more angled and detailed. The face on the 2015 rendition also appears more squashed, with smaller eyes, a smaller mouth, a smaller hole at the top of the head, and fewer holes around the cheeks. And next up is the toy that is as cool as ice, Kopaka. Ah, cheesy! Are you coming down with something, Jardak? No. I'm just allergic to your lame attempts at introducing these guys. Your elemental puns are stupid. Duly noted. Getting back on track, Kopaka has the most armor coverage out of any of the other Toa. This may restrict posability in some areas, particularly around the knee and shoulder areas. On the upside though, he does look like an ancient Greek Spartan, and we all know how awesome they were. This is Sparta! Anyway, his color palette of white and gold are spread out quite nicely. The hints of light blue also give a nice finish. And while there is silver around the chest armor, it is not really all that distracting. At least not in the way that it is for Tahu. He also has a single gear function, which allows him to move his right arm. His tools of choice are an ice spear and an ice shield. The shield can create a force field that covers both Kopaka and those around him, as well as split to form a pair of skis. While using his skis, his spear can be used to propel him forward. His spear also utilizes a piece of Garak's staff at the tip. Don't even go there, Jardak! His mask is very smooth, with a clear distinction creating an outer and inner portion. The only real flaw I see is around the left corner of his eye. There is a deep groove there in which snow can get trapped in. But that's not much of a problem for the Toa of Ice, is it? Compared to his 2001 mask, it is definitely more angled, especially around the sides and bottom. There is also an eye hole within the innermost lens of his telescopic attachment, a feature that the 2001 mask did not share. Now at last, we come to the wise Earthshaker, Onua. Now what did I just say, man? Next to Pohatu, Onua is the shortest among the Toa. He is also the widest. His width is primarily due to the unique build of his gearbox, giving him wide shoulders. This is necessary for his big shoulder armor, which can limit posability to some degree. He also has an additional piece on his neck, which increases posability around that area. He has the most color out of any of the other Toa, which makes sense. His chest armor in particular is the only one without a printed out detail. The detail instead comes in the form of stickers. He has a double gear function which allows him to move both his arms simultaneously. It is also the most stable out of all the Toa due to the use of a bolt joint rather than gear friction. His tool of choice is a mighty warhammer, that can split to form a pair of shovelers. While his shovelers are in use, the parts that compose of his warhammer can be safely placed on his back. However, unlike the animations, he cannot put his hammer in a two-hand grip or clasp his shovelers together. So he's short, and his weapons consist of digging equipment. He's a dwarf. No, Jardak, Onua is not a dwarf. Anyway, his mask is by far the smallest out of all the Toa. It also creates a sort of visor around his eyes, and has some pretty intricate detailing around the nose and mouth. Comparing the mask with its 2001 counterpart, Onua's current mask is by far the one that's most similar to its 2001 counterpart. Of course, there are some cosmetic changes, but there isn't a whole lot that stands out between the two. Now, before I continue on with this review, I would like to express some issues that I have with the Toa's tools. Oh boy! First, Kopaka's blades on his shield look extremely similar to Tahu's greatswords. In fact, the only significant difference between the two is how they are connected between both their forms, which, to be blunt, is a difference that can be easily nullified. Next, the blade/flippers on Galley's war axe are nearly identical to Liwa's axe blade/glider wings. How can one type of tool serve as both wings for gliding on air currents and flippers to propel you on water? Finally, Liwa's swords are just recolorations of Tahu's secondary swords. However, both pairs of blades get a bit more of a pass since they essentially serve the same function, no matter who is wielding them. The only truly unique Toa weapons are Pohatu's Stormerangs and Onua's Warhammer/shovelers. You done? Yes, I'm done. But I will take the time to admit that this is just me nitpicking at this point, and I can understand why the designers of LEGO made the choices that they did. Moving on! Now, I will talk about the protectors. Since I feel there isn't a whole lot of variety between them, and to cut down on time, I will talk about them as one unit. The protectors have a great deal of posability due to being entirely comprised of single ball joints. However, such posability will vary from figure to figure due to the various placements of their armor. The only automatic functioning they have are their blasters. Simply turn the black gear to fire the mechanism. The ammunition that these blasters use are simple Lego studs. While it's relatively easy to lose the studs, it's also pretty easy to replace them. Ultimately though, my opinions on them haven't changed from my preview of them. After all, I only have one of them by the time of this review. A link to the preview will be in the description below. Finally, we get to the main villain of the Bionicle 2015 Winter Wave, the Lord of Skull Spiders. Creepy look? Dumb name! He does look kinda creepy when he's staring right at you. But I digress. Now, the Lord of Skull Spiders has 6 legs, unlike the traditional spider which has 8, and has a radically different build than all the other sets. It also has a gear function, and more pieces than any of the other sets. However, he has a set that focuses more on the gear function than the actual form itself. The only posable parts of him are the feet and lower jaw, and his gear function is just him moving his legs more inward. The trigger for this can be found at the back of the thorax. Speaking of which, his thorax looks way too flat to be an actual spider's. Now, I won't say that he is a bad set, but compared with all the other ones that I previously discussed, he leaves a lot to be desired. To wrap up this review, these sets are awesome. Now, these sets have their faults and some have more than others, but overall, they'd make an excellent addition to any Bionicle collection. LEGO has not only launched its most massive amount of sets since its debut in 2001, they also made an amazing balance between posability and gear function. The new mask and head designs are great as well. They're one of the many ways that LEGO has shown that they respect the old material. The sets more than make up for the shortcomings of the story, as it has been presented to us thus far. And with the arrival of the new Skull villains, it looks like it's gonna be a pretty epic year for Bionicle. Whew! That took longer than I anticipated. Now, keep in mind, this is all my opinion. If you felt I made a valued critique, or you feel I'm flat out wrong, that's a-okay. And feel free to voice your own opinions in the comments section below. Also, take my critique with a grain of salt, because I don't own all the sets yet. If you like this video, and want to see more content by me, feel free to subscribe. This will probably be the last discussions video that I make for a while. But Ghost, we just got back here! Well, Jardark, I'm gonna get pretty busy in the coming months. I won't have time to make these. With that said, I will see you all next... Wait! What about YouTube Spotlight? This video's long enough as it is. I will see you all next time!